For the Didactic Strategies course, I designed an inclusive strategy that puts together both individual and group evaluations. I started with a problem that needed to be solved. Laura, a teacher, must provide an online course for the first time. She was told by her institution that she had to take the existing online course on didactic strategies in order to design her course with a methodological basis. She does not know how to do so yet. In this course on didactic strategy, she finds an excellent opportunity to learn how to do it. By providing this context, each student turns to the way formative evaluation activities are drafted, portrays Laura as if she were there and thus try to achieve their learning needs. Let's see how this happens. In the first activity, didactic sequences, students are asked to design a concept map that shows the main concept on the didactic strategies and publish it in the forum. Then they had peer interactions to give mutual feedbacks on their work. During the second activity, sharing my storytelling on Storyfy, students learn how to write a story online, curating contents and web resources with the use of Storyfy. We made available a variety of tutorials and supporting materials about what content curation is, how to simplify the search of the web resources for developing the stories, and how to review other student stories. In the third activity called Flipped Classroom, starting from a YouTube class video, students had to analyze the group didactic techniques used and provide didactic strategies and techniques for its improvement. Once again, the online forum has been used to share the analysis, comment them, and later on submit an action plan to propose didactic techniques to flip that class. At the end, in the final project, which is the fourth activity, students had to deliver the pedagogical and didactic planning to flip one of the classes, since the students for this course are practicing teachers, in which they had to apply everything learned in the course, individual and group didactic techniques, story design, and flipped classroom. Students had to share in the forum the plan developed in their class. Then they had to choose a plan coming from another classmate who discussed it, selected, or integrated it from a pedagogical perspective and submit a final single plan. In this way, working on an inclusive case which was gradually resolved through learning activities proved to be an easier way to deploy the formative evaluation strategy. Each activity was supported in forums where students first had to share their artifacts and then work under the think-pair share technique by mutually strengthening and improving works and providing a specific aspect to be improved. My role as a teacher, apart from follow-up and feedback, was focused on taking care of the forum evolution and student contributions, intervening and giving feedbacks when a word or intervention had deviated from the learning objectives, or an outstanding word could become a reference for future contributions. I provided feedbacks also for suggesting improvements on concept maps or quoting words that met the learning objectives in a proper manner. I believe that carrying out this evaluation strategy gives students the chance to interact, balance out concepts, learn among peers, learning from observations. This also allowed me as a teacher to keep the pace and notice the gradual building of the scaffolding of learning acquired by each student and each group. Each activity had a learning guide with the descriptions of what was expected from the students, on how they should interact and how they should submit their artifacts. They also had an assessment rubric that showed which aspect would be evaluated. Thanks to this prior planning, I can focus my attention on watching the students' process of gradual development and concentrate my feedback on improving students' accomplishment. All activities had feedback. Each activity and development phases are translated into a score that was reflected in a grade. Qualitative feedback was always used, which emphasized those precise aspects that go beyond the fulfillment of the objectives, like effort, commitment, and development of their own learning. I acted as a driving force, remembering key aspects and deliberate days, motivating and driving participation and interaction among students. I made recommendations aimed at clarifying the conceptual or methodological aspects associated with the fulfillment of the activities, highlighting artifacts that achieve a good development level and inviting other students to have a look on them. I also gave feedback on artifacts that did not fulfill expected purposes. Feedback among peers, together with teacher feedbacks, allow students' work to gain better results. Students that took the course worked in Moodle Virtual Classroom, which had pre-established resources and contents. I designed the learning activities with these resources and content. Each activity had a minimum of 2 forums as a space of interaction, socialization, and for publishing artifacts. Collaborative work was promoted among students as the next step of a previous individual work, offering the opportunity to interact, share, give opinions, and suggest improvements to artifacts done by the other students. Interaction within the forum was developed under an asynchronous model, where each student and I, as a teacher, could enter at any time and review messages found within the forum. Motivation for the students to share their development was almost granted, but this dynamic was embraced spontaneously by more students who wanted to share their works. At the beginning, I had to establish the rule that students could not make any comment without having previously published their own work. This is because at the beginning of the course I saw very superficial comments and contributions due to insufficient reading of the course material by some of the students. As the course progressed, this situation was overcome and students always put their own development into play before commenting on the development of their classmates. The Technological University of Pereira has a team made up of communicators, graphic designers, instructional designers, and teacher experts in online education. As part of their model, the university assigns a pedagogical designer to support the teacher in designing the learning activities. They have many online resources, such as templates, items, and agendas, in order to keep homogeneity among the learning units of each course. Formative assessment strategies are not included in these existing resources. It was me, as guest teacher, who proposed to add these strategies based on the design of the learning activities. As a teacher, I received support in setting up the aspect of the course's gradebook and the evaluation items that supported the various learning activities. Designing an inclusive learning strategy that is supported by electronic forums allowed me to build a formative evaluation process where each interaction, each message, each act of cooperation, and each piece of qualitative feedback provided through the forums were brought together in a collective work portfolio, where both the intermediate development as well as the final product were submitted. I managed the entire process, establishing the interaction, cooperation, and feedback to the classmates' works. Such are granted criteria within the evaluation rubric of each learning activity. The interesting thing about designing rubrics is being able to design indicators that provide a value to the processes and not only to the product. In this way, the teacher has data useful to the final evaluation, but collects also information on the process and the effort shown by the students. Qualitative feedback was given for each activity, and this was the basis for providing the grade and the final evaluation obtained by each student. Students are aware of these rules from the first day of the online course, as well as the items that criteria to be adopted by the teacher. Forums help in the process as they simplify the monitoring and traceability and the gradual learning achievements of the students.